poll the other day by Marquette University that showed that 48% of Republicans and 47% of independents don't like his prosecutions at a DOJ aimed at his political enemies. That's, again, almost half of Republicans don't like that. The boat strikes, right? You have leaders of Congress, Republican leaders, saying we want hearings, we want answers.
They support
That's
the boat
fair.
strikes.
But they want it. But they want answers.
They support the boat strikes.
Okay, but they want answers. That's better. That's some accountability. That's some.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've stumbled across this video from a CNN panel discussion where we've got something really special happening. You've got Ellie Honig, who is a former federal prosecutor, someone who actually worked at the Department of Justice and prosecuted organized crime cases, sitting on a panel with Scott Jennings trying to defend absolute loyalty to one leader. And what makes this so powerful is that Ellie isn't giving you political opinions. He's citing Marquette University polling showing that 48% of Republicans and 47% of independents don't like prosecutions at DOJ aimed at political enemies. And then you've got Anna Navarro and Bakari Sellers backing him up with moral arguments and electoral data. All three of them hitting Scott from different angles with legal expertise, polling evidence, and structural analysis that he simply cannot counter. So make sure you watch until the end, and please comment down below where you're watching from. I really love to see people from all over the world connecting in here. All right, now let's get into the video.
All right, I'm looking at you. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't take any political advice from Adam Kinzinger, and I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. B, look, I've been hearing for 10 years that Trump's going to lose his base over this or that or the other. And for millions upon millions of Republicans who support what he's doing, who have lived through the last 10 years, they have learned to take Donald Trump for who he is, all in, all the time. And they are very appreciative of what he's doing for the country. They like what he's done on taxes. They like what he's doing on immigration. They like that he lives up to his campaign promises. But we're living through another moment here where a bunch of people are going to come out and make predictions about Trump and the base and this and that. And the reality is, it's not true. There are going to be a lot of people who don't like this statement, and then they're going to assess the state of American politics and assess the alternative and say, I knew what I was signing up for when I voted for him 3 times, and I'm going to ride it out.
I actually agree with Scott. I think the Republican base jumped the shark in 2016 when so many Christians, so many evangelicals, so many Catholics, so many people who said they didn't like Trump and heard him boast about sexual assault on video and on tape still went out and voted for him. So I think Trump has gotten away with and gets away with, as he himself said, he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'd still support him. I think he's gotten away with setting a new standard that only he gets measured by. But I think that what's eroding.
But his approval ratings are spiraling.
But I don't think it's because of
it's not.
I don't think it's because of lack of empathy or inhumanity. Yeah, I think it's because
it's about the economy,
the tariffs. Right. I think it's because they look at what's happening in Venezuela and wonder how that's America first. I think it's Latinos. He's lost double digits with Latinos because I think they think he's gone too far on the deportation. They may like what he's done in the border, but they think he's gone too far on deportations and that it's cruel. And good people are getting dragged through the streets by masked men. So, I think it's a lot of things. I don't think it's about his lack of empathy over Rob Reiner.
So there's a couple of things about Trump's base. One, he ain't going to lose it. 2, it's non-transferable. Okay? So that's the thing that Republicans are having a hard time figuring out. Donald Trump forever, I say broke, but I will just, so we're not like content farming here. He reshaped the Republican Party. This Republican Party, since 2015, is being remade in Donald Trump's image. Now, what that party can't run on are things like family values. I mean, he has 5 kids by 3 baby mamas, right? What that Republican Party can't run on are things like evangelical, we are GOP, God's only party, because you have a president right now who doesn't have any empathy, who doesn't display those things, who doesn't have that Christ-like walk. So if you take those things together, it is a new type of politics. Yeah, it's a show.
Bakari, let me ask you a question. What 2-term president was transferable? Who did Barack Obama's popularity transfer to? Nobody. And in fact, the Democratic Party base across the country was decimated. Reagan transferred to Bush, and then he was a one-term president.
That's not true.
Who did transfer? Who did Clinton transfer to?
You do realize.
Who did Clinton transfer?
You do realize that Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump, right?
I know.
So to say that it was decimated,
boy, she looked great in the White House, didn't she?
Well, she did. I mean, to say it was decimated is a gross overstatement.
Thousands upon thousands of Democrats in lower elected office across the country lost during. He decimated the Democratic Party.
Who?
Obama. There was no transference from him.
That has a totally That's a different.
No, there are.
Scott Jennings starts saying, "I don't take any political advice from Adam Kinzinger. I've been hearing for 10 years that he's going to lose his base, and for millions upon millions of Republicans, they have learned to take him for who he is, all in, all the time." Scott is doing political defense. He's spinning. He's dismissing critics. He's framing unconditional base loyalty as strength. But here's what makes this powerful. You've got Ellie Honig, a former federal prosecutor, listening to this. When a prosecutor hears someone describe absolute base loyalty, unconditional support, regardless of evidence, he's hearing something completely different than what Scott intends. Ellie is hearing the kind of organizational structure that enables misconduct, the absence of accountability, exactly the environment where legal violations thrive. Anna Navarro comes in with the moral contradiction. I think the Republican base jumped the shark in 2016 when so many Christians, evangelicals, heard him boast about sexual assault on video and still went out and voted for him. And she follows with, as he himself said, he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'd still support him. He's gotten away with setting a new standard. Anna is making the values argument, exposing hypocrisy, moral compromise, the abandonment of stated principles. Watch how the legal perspective and moral argument reinforce each other. Anna talks about evidence on tape, recorded admissions being dismissed. And from Ellie's prosecutorial perspective, that's huge. When you have a movement that decides evidence doesn't matter, that recorded admissions can be ignored when politically convenient, you've established that facts are optional. And that mindset bleeds into how you think about law enforcement, prosecutions, the entire justice system. If you can dismiss recorded evidence in one context, you can dismiss it in any context. That's exactly the environment where DOJ weaponization becomes possible. Where prosecutorial abuse can happen, where the rule of law breaks down. Anna is showing the moral bankruptcy. Ellie is seeing the legal implications. Together, they're building a case Scott can't defend against. Then, Bakari Sellers adds the structural analysis. There are a couple of things about his base. One, he ain't going to lose it. Two, it's non-transferable. Republicans are having a hard time figuring out he reshaped the Republican Party. Bakari is describing a personality cult, an organization remade around one person's will rather than principles or accountability structures. For someone with Ellie's background prosecuting organized crime, this description is extremely familiar. That's exactly how mob families work. Absolute loyalty to the boss, non-transferable allegiance, organizational reshaping around one person's authority. Bakari is giving political science analysis, but Ellie is recognizing the criminal enterprise structure.
Some specific signs. By the way, I think it's healthy to have a president where some members of his party on some issues can question him, whether you're Democrat or Republican, right? It's never good to have absolute fealty, but let me give you some specifics that show that he's not going to lose the base. You're right about that. But just for example, there was a poll the other day by Marquette University that showed that 48% of Republicans and 47% of independents don't like his prosecutions at a DOJ aimed at his political enemies. That's, again, almost half of Republicans don't like that. The boat strikes, right? You have leaders of Congress, Republican leaders saying we want hearings, we want answers.
They support the boat strikes.
But they want it, but they want answers.
They support the boat strikes.
Okay, but they want answers. That's better. That's some accountability. That's some specifics. The Epstein files, we had a complete turnaround. Everyone voted for disclosure. Indiana, the state of Indiana, just refused to decline to gerrymander mid-district. So I'm not saying he's falling apart. I'm under no illusion about the strength of Donald Trump. But there are signs, and there are signs that this is not going to be absolute fealty.
I mean, that was brilliant. I mean, that was good research in depth. But you don't even have to go that far. You can go to elections that we just recently had. I mean, Republicans got mollywopped. Republicans lost the city of Miami.
By 20 points.
By 20 points. I mean, you're hemorrhaging Hispanic voters. I mean, so look.
Let me ask you this question. Does Trump care?
No, and that's the biggest
In other words,
point.
he's not running for re-election. I think he cares.
That is the most brilliant point made tonight.
I actually know he cares more about his legacy. He wants to be known 100 years from now the way Teddy Roosevelt
If he loses the House and or Senate, there's going to be what he hasn't had so far, which is oversight.
Didn't Clinton lose it?
But the kind of things he's doing, the kind of things he's doing in this second term very quickly without any oversight, it would change dramatically if all of a sudden the control of the House of Congress changed.
And I think that's why he's
And I'll tell you another reason why I think his numbers are suffering. Today, December 15th, is the last day of the enrollment period for the health exchange. And there's a lot of Americans, Republican,
to your point,
Democrat, and everything in between.
Because he knows you're right.
That don't know what they're going to do, that are going to choose to go naked without health insurance. And that's going to cause people getting sicker and some people dying.
He's running for 2 years to do as much as he can in these 2 years. The Wall Street Journal had a big piece today about his executive power, how he's like pushing the Supreme Court out of the way, pushing the Congress out of the way, and he's just running right up the middle. It's called the imperial presidency, and he's going for it because I think you're right. I think if he loses in the midterms, that everything's going to change. But he's running the country for his legacy so that 100 years from now, he's on that list of greatest presidents of the United States.
I
think history is unique because the way that history looks at individuals, it usually takes their greatest character attributes and shines a light on them, right? People are usually looked more fondly, whether or not it's a rapper. You didn't even have to be that good of a rapper, but if you died a little while ago, they actually look at you a little different. I'm not about to name names because I'm in New York. And so people look at you a little bit differently about what type of artist you were. Right? If you were a politician, people look at you a little bit differently. And we all know that Donald Trump has the greatest envy of one person, which is Barack Obama. He envies Barack Obama. Well, that's fine. He envies Barack Obama, whether or not it's Nobel Peace Prizes, whether or not it's the swag, whether or not it's the way that he talked, whether or not it's his adoration, whether or not it's his Gallup approval rating today, all those things.
Elie Honig, the former federal prosecutor, weighs in directly. I think it's healthy to have a president where some members of his party can question him. It's never good to have absolute fealty. Notice what Elie is doing. He's not making a partisan argument. He's stating a prosecutorial principle. Because prosecutors know what absolute fealty produces. They've seen what happens in organizations where no one questions the boss. Absolute fealty is the number one indicator of criminal enterprise. It's what you see in mob families, corrupt political machines, organized crime structures. When everyone is loyal without question, when dissent is punished, when accountability doesn't exist, that's when organizations engage in systematic misconduct. Elie is telling us, with his professional expertise, that we're watching this happen in real time. Then Elie brings the evidence. There was a poll by Marquette University that showed 48% of Republicans and 47% of independents don't like his prosecutions at DOJ aimed at his political enemies. This is the difference between a legal expert and a political operative. Elie doesn't give you his opinion. He provides evidence. He cites a specific poll. He shows you that even Republicans recognize DOJ weaponization is happening. Notice Elie's prosecutorial strategy. He's not saying, I think DOJ is being weaponized. He's saying, here's polling showing Republicans and independents both believe it. He's building a case the way prosecutors build cases, with evidence, with data, with facts that can't be spun away. When Scott tries to counter with political talking points, you can't spin Marquette University polling data. Scott tries to pivot. Thousands upon thousands of Democrats in lower elected office lost. He decimated the Democratic Party. Obama. There was no transference from him. Scott is doing what political operatives do, changing the subject, bringing up Obama, making this about both sides, rather than addressing the specific DOJ weaponization Elie just exposed. But Bakari Sellers doesn't let that deflection work. Republicans got mollywopped. Republicans lost the city of Miami by 20 points. You're hemorrhaging Hispanic voters. Bakari is using Scott's own metric against him. You want to talk about electoral performance? Let's talk about Miami. Let's talk about hemorrhaging Latino support. This is what makes the progressive side so effective. Ellie brings legal expertise and prosecutorial analysis. Bakari brings electoral data and structural critique. Anna brings moral arguments and values-based attacks. They're hitting Scott from 3 different angles with 3 different types of evidence. And Scott, alone, simply can't counter all of them simultaneously. Ellie doesn't need to shout. He just states facts, cites polls, references his professional experience prosecuting organized crime. And every time he does, he reminds viewers we're not just talking about political disagreements. We're talking about conduct that prosecutors recognize as violations.
But push that aside. He wants to be remembered in history as something that he was not. The problem that he has is that when you have missteps like this, although it may not mean anything today, it may not mean anything with this electorate, I do think history is going to frown upon somebody who doesn't have it.
But you just said he changed the Republican Party. You said that. So
I didn't say for better.
Well, but maybe he changed it for the next 50 years.
He did.
And okay. He will be remembered for
and that is a sad
the way Lawrence Taylor is remembered for changing the way football is played.
But Lawrence Taylor also did crack in the locker room before he played.
So what? He's still the great. NFL just rated him the greatest defensive player of all time. Period. Amen. End of story. 30 years after
I hear you, but it's always going to be the attribute, the asterisk. Barry Bonds is the greatest of all time.
If you think Donald Trump is going to get graded as one of the greatest presidents of all time, I'm going to begin to wonder if you're smoking crack.
Chip O'Neill never thought Ronald Reagan would be rated one of the greatest presidents of all time. And they got along and they did wonderful things together.
Love it or hate it, he is the most consequential political force in the modern era. He is the strongest party boss either party has ever seen. He got more votes each time he appeared on the ballot. He has people that will only vote for him. Now, that's something Obama had as well. He had people that would only vote for him. That puts you in a different realm. I mean, when you're that kind of and 2-term presidents often have this, but you cannot deny, he is the most consequential political force of the modern era of either party.
I don't want to deny that but I do think consequential also has a negative connotation.
It can.
And I think that when
every politician has detractors and supporters.
They're not detractors and supporters. There's impact on history, like Andrew Jackson. I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, like Trail of Tears. I mean, where are we going with this discussion about remembering who people were? And so I just think that Donald Trump will be remembered as somebody who was extremely consequential for reshaping the Republican Party. No doubt about it. But I do think that his moral and ethical lapses, whether or not it's before office or in office, will not go unnoticed. And I think I agree.
Bakari, he's reshaped far more than the Republican Party. He has gotten law firms to capitulate, media to capitulate, universities to capitulate.
You're right. I was a little too narrow in my scope.
Yes.
Has there ever been a president with moral and ethical failings before Donald Trump?
There hasn't been one with this. I mean, this is a gumbo.
Maybe one in your party?
This is a gumbo. This is a gumbo of moral and ethical failures.
But you said earlier, it's got to do with the transparency. We knew what the Kennedy brothers were doing.
As a child lawyer, I was on a roll.
All right, I'm sorry.
People were like, they were vibing with me.
All right,
no
as a trial lawyer, I know what to object to.
No president until Trump ever had a moral or ethical failing.
That's not what I was saying. But Donald Trump has the gumbo of moral and ethical failures. I mean, look, if you
he's got you know what he's got? He's got the gold medal that he's
Arthur Aidala, a defense attorney, describes what's happening. The Wall Street Journal had a big piece about his executive power, pushing the Supreme Court out of the way, pushing the Congress out of the way. It's called the imperial presidency, and he's going for it. When both a former prosecutor and a defense attorney identify systematic problems with rule of law, that should tell you something. These legal professionals usually disagree, but on executive power exceeding constitutional limits, they both see the threat. Scott tries to reframe. He is the most consequential political force in the modern era. He has the strongest party boss either party has ever seen. Scott is making this about power, about political success, like being the strongest party boss is positive. But when Ellie Honig hears strongest party boss, he doesn't hear achievement. He hears organizational control, the exact description he'd use explaining to a jury how criminal enterprise functions. One person at top with absolute authority, complete loyalty, zero accountability. That's not a political movement. That's a structure prosecutors build RICO cases around. Bakari counters, consequential also has a negative connotation, like Andrew Jackson, Trail of Tears. Bakari refuses Scott's premise. County doesn't mean good. Andrew Jackson reshaped politics, expanded presidential power. He's on our currency, and he's also responsible for genocide. This reinforces Ellie's legal perspective. Prosecutors understand power without constraint leads to atrocities. Andrew Jackson defied the Supreme Court, treated judicial authority as optional, and it led to Trail of Tears. When you establish courts don't matter, you create the framework for systematic violations. Anna delivers the crucial observation. He's reshaped far more than the Republican Party. He has gotten law firms to capitulate, media to capitulate, universities to capitulate. Ellie knows exactly what she's describing.
That's what happens in sophisticated corruption cases. You control the systems, make lawyers afraid to take cases, journalists afraid to publish, academics afraid to speak. Once you've achieved systemic capitulation, legal accountability becomes impossible. Who represents the whistleblower if law firms are intimidated? Who publishes evidence if media is afraid? You've dismantled every external check on power. What's left is an organization violating laws with impunity, because all accountability institutions have been neutralized through fear. This is what makes Ellie's expertise so devastating. He doesn't call anyone criminal. He describes what he sees using professional experience. Systematic dismantling of accountability. Weaponization of law enforcement. Organizational structures prosecutors recognize from organized crime cases. That's not political opinion. That's legal analysis from someone who built these cases. When you combine Ellie's prosecutorial expertise with Anna's moral arguments, Bakari's structural analysis, and Arthur's legal perspective, you get comprehensive takedown exposing every weakness in Scott's position. Scott can spin talking points, but he can't spin polling data, can't dismiss legal expertise, can't counter evidence-based analysis. So, what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.